Howdy there, friendly PvPers. Peter the Panda here. This is going to be an add-on video. I've got a ton of add-ons, so it's kind of long. I'm going to put timestamps in the description for every single add-on. That way you can kind of pick and choose what you want to take away from the video. I try to break down in detail how to use the add-ons, how to customize them, and why I think they're helpful for me in PvP. So let's jump right into it. Right, let's go in alphabetical order here. Arena Team Tracker, very simple add-on. Tracks your teammates' cooldowns. I kind of snug it into my raid frames over here, so when I'm looking at the health pools, I can see what cooldowns we have during the game. It really helps for like planning ahead of time, knowing what cooldowns you have to use. If I see that my healer doesn't have trinket and my other DPS doesn't have defensive cooldowns, then I know that that's my time to be ready to life swap if I have to. Now, the thing I love about this is you can add other things, like you could actually add Obsidian Claw. This won't be a huge thing to do in Shadowlands, I guess, but if you like Google spell IDs on Wowhead, you can customize and add your own spells. So if you just Google the spell ID is going to be in the the URL where it says spell equals. So if I add this in, and I put 120, add update, I can now track his Obsidian Claw. And that's just good as a Shadow Priest because every 45 seconds you're going to be able to do a CC chain that's long enough for this claw to have full uptime. I'm actually in my disc gear right now. So yeah, really cool add-on. Definitely recommend using that. It's not the biggest thing in the world. Some people actually don't like this because it reduces the skill cap effectively in the game. You don't have to communicate with your partners and be in sync. You can just have the add-on tell you everything. And that would be a problem, I guess, if you're playing in tournaments and you're not used to communicating that way. Right, moving down the list of the Bs, let's go to Bartender. This is just a cool way to organize your UI. What I've done is I've put kind of all of my abilities that have cooldowns in the middle of my screen right here. I put Disperse next to Disperse, I put Shadow Fiend next to Shadow Fiend, Grip next to Grip, all that stuff. And I have a bunch of hidden bars. So if you go to /bartender, unlock everything, you can see all of these abilities are keybinded over here. So if I go to always hide, I can hide it, and that way I don't have this extra clutter. For example, this bar, I've got like Mind Flay, VT, Shadow Word Pain, and just some other stuff that really doesn't have a cooldown. Like even Purge doesn't have a cooldown, so I don't need to really track Purge. Mind Seer, none of that stuff really matters to me, so I'm just gonna hit always hide on them and fade them out to black. Bartender is really cool too because you could type /KB to instantly change your keybinds. So you can see some of my binds. Some of these abilities are bound, some of them are down here as well. And moving on really quick, let's talk about Bigdebuffs. If you can get any add-on in this video, go for this one. I really love it. What it's going to do is show the most important buff or debuff on the portrait frames. It also shows CC. Like if I have a focus target and if I see actually I'll just put this guy in focus, it'll show the CC right there. So rather than looking right here in the smaller version, I have this to keep track of. Really helpful for like effectively timing CC out of another CC. Totally recommend that. Another cool thing it does, I think it'll show, yeah, right here on the nameplates, it's going to show the CC as well. Just kind of makes everything bigger and highlights the most important thing that's happening with the buff situation. And this is just good because there's so many fucking buffs. Like, look what's going on here. I got all this bullshit going on. It's hard to keep track of everything, and this add-on really just reduces the time that it takes your brain to calculate what the fuck is happening. And yeah, people think it's maybe playing the game for you, but I personally don't think it's as bad as like Gladiator or Losa, which just like announces everything that's happening in your ear. It is customizable. However, I haven't had to add anything, but say you didn't really care about like tracking some of this stuff, like, oh, I don't really care if he's rooted or blah blah blah. You could just uncheck things, change whatever you really want. You could do without the nameplates too. But I'll show an example of an arena game real quick. Let's go to my hard drive. Just pick any random game, any meeny miny mo. Let's pick a warlock. Where is that? Right here. Okay. So I really like this against warlocks specifically because when they pop Dark Soul, I know that we could lose, and as soon as that shit is up, my add-on is going to kind of fucking blare that at me. You can see he's got 19 seconds left. He's casting a Chaos Bolt on my rogue who has an Obsidian Claw on him. If there was ever a time to be scared, it's right now. I silenced this bolt, which is kind of noob because my rogue also step kicks it. I just kind of panicked and fizzed out there. That was completely my bad. But at least I knew that we were scared, and at least I was, reacting. I just should have communicated if we were able to kick that or not. Now it's also going to show defensive cooldowns. So like right here, I think the pally gets a sack off or something maybe. Or that was earlier. Well, we see fade right there. Yeah, just basically shows their most important buff. This Divine Favor heal is up. Actually, this part of the video is funny because I mind control him as he uses Infernals and it stuns the priest. We also know that wings are up for 14 seconds, which means if he's not CC'd, he's probably just going to top them off. Bubbles up, so I MD that. I see sack, and yeah, just showing the most important thing that's going on. I really like that. And when I get CC, it'll also show on the nameplates. So cool. That was a really terrible game, but at least you got to see the add-ons. Castbars, I just use this because when you play with Bartender, the default Castbars I think end up being like right where my bars are, and I just wanted an add-on to move my Castbar. You could also use move anything to do this. I don't really customize this add-on really at all. Just if you want to move your Castbar, check that out. Let's keep going down the list. Details. Oh, this one's super good. Really like this one. If you want to figure out what talents and what kind of gear setups the enemy team is playing, also even just comparing like the damage breakdown. Say I'm playing against another Shadow Priest and he outdamages me. I'm going to look at, what was he doing better than me to get all this off? Like this priest has the Azurite Spike Essence. If I wasn't playing that, I'd be like, oh, maybe I should throw that on. And let's see, was I playing it? Look, I wasn't playing it. Maybe I should do it. Maybe I should throw it on. I usually do play it, so it's kind of a mistake that I wasn't doing that. Anyways, it's also good to know, like the gear setup. So if I looked at my rogue's gushing damage, he did 23k gushing crits. That means he's basically full gushing. If you look at this rogue, his highest crit was 19k. So he's got a few less gushing, which means he probably has more versatility on, making it kind of harder to kill him. I think this is also really good against, let's see if this guy was using, okay, that guy was full gushing. Also really good against melee cleave. So if we're facing melee cleave or just a melee class in general, here's a DK. This guy is getting big gushes. We know he's going to be squishy if we are differentiating between like a DK and a DH, for example. Go like details mid game. Literally, if you're CC'd or whatever, just mouse over. If gushings are top damage, they're going to be squishy, and you can set up a kill on him. Now you can also do cool things like track interrupts and dispels, so we can see who got more kicks. What are we kicking? Sometimes that's important to know. Like, are we kicking the right spells? CC breaks. Sometimes if a CC breaks and you're wondering how did that happen, you could find out the reason here. Crowd control's done, received. Some of this stuff like you can analyze for days and it might not really change the game, but I do find it helpful. After every match, I'm always looking to see like what I did wrong or what else I could do better to improve my damage. Just really quickly talk about Diminish. I just got this add-on recently too. What it's going to do is track the diminishing returns on you. Now diminishing returns, if you're not familiar with them, what it basically means is when a CC hits you at the end of that CC for the next 18 seconds, that CC is going to be reduced by half, and it has diminishing returns, so it keeps stacking. So if I get sheep for 8 seconds, the next sheep is half of that, 4 seconds. The sheep after that is half of that, 2 seconds. Now it's really not that important to have as a DPS, I think. The only time I really think it's valuable is when I see that I'm about to be off stun DR and a rogue is running at me. Maybe that's a good time to pre-fade a kidney. However, I don't rely on that too much. You can also track when your teammates are on CC DR, so if I see that my shaman's not on sheep DR, which means he could be full sheeped, I am a little bit more careful of stopping the mage. This is a great add-on if you're a healer, but not too important as a DPS. Next one, Gladiusex. What this does for me, I could see the enemy DRs, so now I know when can I do my CC. According to this right now, I can't fear because fear is on the same DR as clone, and it's already been DR'd 3 times. So if it has that 0 with a line through it, don't press your button. Even if it has the 1/4, don't press your button, because that would basically make my like my stun like 1 second, and it would make my fear like, I don't know, 1.5 seconds or something. And this add-on, Gladiusex, also shows enemy cooldowns, which is basically the only difference between Gladius and Gladiusex. I think it shows global cooldowns too, however, I never really pay attention to that. You can also track trinkets and racials, so if there's like a human, I could track human trinket, and that would be helpful for me to know what their cooldown situation is like. Lortui, all this does is make the UI darker. So if you look at my bars, I've got this like little black tint to them. My unit frame has this little like shadowy aura, I guess. Don't have to customize that whatsoever, just download it, pop it on if you like the way it looks. My slot, this is really good if you have multiple characters or keybinds or something, or if you want to transfer something to PTR or the arena tournament. All you do is go to my slot, export, boom, this will copy literally my entire UI, and it works with Bartender, so that one's super awesome if you're trying to just set something up really quick. Omnibar, again, a cooldown tracker, very important to know when interrupts are up. It's going to by default track every interrupt in the game. If I am playing against a team with 3 interrupts, I've really got to be careful getting kicked because you could die so easily as a Shadow Priest. Sorry, I just yawned for a second. And yeah, now I know when to cast if trying to get a massive spell off. Trying to wait till I see those kicks to actually get it off. Sometimes it's good to just bait kicks, like if nothing's happening, just tank a kick, doesn't really matter, just tank a kick and start purging. That way you're able to get a setup when you actually have damage ready. What else we got going on? Omni CC, I think this is actually built into the WoW UI in Shadowlands, but what it does is it shows the cooldowns in text number on your ability. So if I press all my buttons really quick, it'll show, okay, I have Massive Spell in 15 seconds, I have Trinket in 2 minutes, and Fade in 33. That way if my teammates are asking me, when can I CC, I'll tell them according to whatever that exact number says, so everything is calculated. Raider IO, this just tracks how good people are at timing dungeons. I don't really think it matters. You'll get discriminated against in Mythic Plus if you don't have it. I actually turned it off because I was tired of seeing everyone in Arena have a higher IO than me. Alright, Tellmewhen. This is a really important add-on. I really love this. I've played with this for a long time. It's just going to, again, help highlight things that it's really hard to be aware of sometimes in the game. When my teammates are rooted, I have this to know when I cannot life grip them. So for example, Warlock will Dark Soul and triple root someone. If I'm trying to grip them to the pillar, I have to wait till that root expires. All you do is type what you want to track. It has a lot of cool stuff. I'm also tracking when my focus target is immune to interrupts. So if I set my focus right here, right above their frame, there will be like a big grounding totem or a big aura mastery, and I'll know not to press silence. I'm also tracking mind trauma stacks when I'm playing Shadowplay and trying to PvE, void form stacks. Touch of Death, very big cooldown, good to know when to use Fade. So when I see that sitting like 2 or 3 seconds, I can press Fade and that big burst will be completely negated. Now I'm also tracking Ineffable and Touch of the Voodoo right here. So I track Ineffable just to kind of see when it's up. It's probably more important if you're playing more than one and you're a Holy Paladin. I think they kind of chub up whenever that happens, but I like to know when it's up so my CC is coming off cooldown quicker. I'm also tracking Touch of the Voodoo. Now this trinket is completely insane. I have a 475 one for some reason, even though I don't even heal. If we look at this healing done of my shaman, he pressed it 1 time into Mortal Strike, and it did 197k healing into wound poison. So that's reduced healing, and it did 200k healing. Now the reason why I track this is because healers typically use it while they're silenced, and if I see that this crab touches Voodoo Totem here, I'll put Siphon on him and absorb some of those ticks, reduce the effectiveness of that trinket. Also good to know when they've used it, so the next one, if they don't have it, you can commit more damage, use a claw, whatever. I like to be able to be aware of that. Do the last couple add-ons fast here for the time limit. Truefy GCD just shows your global cooldowns in a scrolling wheel fashion. Good to watch after the game sometimes and see if I could have done a more effective global cooldown. I have Jack's Party Castbars for my raid frames to see when my teammates are casting. If I need to know if they're about to get a CC or heal off, I can look there. And lastly, I have weak auras, which is super helpful, very similar to Tellmewhen, but the good news is you can Google all of these weak auras. I'll put a link in the description for some of these. They're really helpful. Dress the Gath Trinket Tracker, and I even track reaping buffs and stuff like that. So definitely recommend that add-on. Let me know if you have any questions. Hope this video helped.